Today's guest is Jaxon Italiano. At just 22 years old, he dismantled a benchmark most people wouldn't even attempt, a pull-up record once held by the man himself, David Goggins, beaten decisively and with time to spare. No stage, no crowd cheering him, no machinery behind him. It was the response to a spark that started as a joke when he realized that he could do 20 pull-ups easily and got curious about what his capacity actually could be. So when Australia shut its borders and Sydney went into lockdown, with limited support and access to resources, Jaxon hooked up a bar to the outside of his house and got to training. No applause, no friends. He kept it quiet and just repeated every single day, working through the discomfort with the motivation of resolve. Jaxon came from absolutely nowhere to beat the master himself without even knowing. And this episode, this is about what happens when discipline stays quiet and execution continues long after the novelty has worn off. We talk pressure, solitude, and the internal contract that you establish when you decide to outwork your own self-doubts. You're going to love this one. Tag a friend so they can see that age is not a prerequisite to being uncommon, and have a look at what Goggins did when he found out that he was beaten.
See, a lot of people went after my record, 4,030 pull-ups that I broke in 2013. They were going after the record, going after my record. The record is 77:15, at least it was. So I trained hard. I did 7,801 pull-ups. As I was getting everything together to submit to Guinness, guess what? There was somebody out there that did 8,008 pull-ups. He was hunting me, he didn't even know it. There's always a motherfucker out there hunting your ass. Make sure you're ready for it. Stay hard.
Jaxon, thanks so much for joining me today. The Think Uncommon podcast really takes the opportunity to focus in on people who have achieved what we consider to be pretty astronomical things. And I've invited you here today as the only 22-year-old that has a world record in his collection. So first of all, let me start by saying welcome and thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Pleasure to be here.
It was really great to get to know you recently, where we went and grabbed a coffee together and you shared a lot of stories about who you are, where you've come from, some of your motivations. But I really want to get straight into it today. On the 13th of November, 2022, after the world as a whole had been upturned significantly for at least the 12 months prior. And I know especially in Australia, we went through our own hard times with regards to the lockdown and the pandemic, which a lot of people are still definitely scarred from. You decided that you were going to lock in that date to attempt a world record. So first of all, can you tell me what world record you went for?
I went for the Guinness World Record for most pull-ups in 24 hours by a male.
Most pull-ups in 24 hours by a male. So this record is actually split out by gender.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
As a woman in sport, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think it'd be a good idea to combine the two and just make one record across both genders. But it's funny, the female record right now is a lot higher than what it was before, and it was very close to when I did it. So it's good to see it come a long way.
That's great to know. I think that the potentially the gap between male and female results when it comes to sport feels like it might be diminishing a little bit.
Yeah, I reckon so. I think just a lot of research and top coaches and physiologists on the case. I think it was bound to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and it's a good thing when we're competitive regardless of gender in any case. So
yeah.
The lead up to the event, let's go right back to the beginning. First of all, what made you decide to go for the record?
I think I was just genetically predisposed to being good at pull-ups. I remember going to the park one time and I hadn't done any upper body work in maybe 2 years or something. And I just wanted to see how many pull-ups I could do for whatever reason. And I remember doing about 20 and I was like pretty impressed by it. I had a feeling it wasn't like a normal result for anyone who hadn't done any upper body work for a long time. And that kind of got into my head. I just was kind of tossing it up for a few months after that about whether or not I should take anything seriously with it. Obviously, pull-ups isn't a sport. It's not like something you can really train for and verse other people. It's like a very individual thing. So, yeah, I just kind of did my research as to what records were out there, and I think there's a bunch of them. There's like a 1 minute, a 3 minute, and then obviously the time goes up till 24 hours. Obviously, heaviest weight you can carry, and I think um it just wasn't the right time. I needed to let it sink in a bit because I didn't want to do anything too impulsive and give up halfway through.
Yeah.
Um, so usually if things have been resting on my mind for a good number of years and it means that it's something that I want to do, I don't want to jump into it too quickly. And that was pretty much it. I was doing road cycling at the time, and I found myself hating the sport more and more as I was getting better because of the competitors, which is so much better than me. Um, it kind of really put into perspective how difficult some sports can be and what you need to do to get to the top level and just how genetically gifted other athletes are compared to you. But pull-ups or upper body work was something that I felt like I was actually a lot better at than using my legs, which is kind of funny. Given I spent so many years doing cycling, something like 8. So I picked the wrong sport essentially. And I during the time that I was riding a lot, I felt like I knew a lot about discipline, getting up every morning at 5 and just like I guess digging away at a goal. And then I built all these qualities up and I had to direct them into something worthwhile that I felt like I could get something out of because cycling wasn't doing it for me. I feel like I wasn't getting the results I wanted. So I essentially just redirected that to pull ups and it paid off.
Wow. So effectively what you're saying is that you've spent all this time working on your legs, and then you by accident found out that in actual fact your legs really weren't your strongest point.
No,
And
not at all.
then before you know it, you're off and you're doing pull-ups randomly at a park and decide that, oh, actually, I think I'm good at pull-ups, even though I've been spending all of this time strengthening my lower body. Meanwhile, my upper body has been here like this silent skill that I've never really explored.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I did like Taekwondo when I was younger, and I feel like it's too young to really determine whether or not you're strong. Like I was 10 or something. I had to wait till I got a bit older. But I knew I had kind of had something there. I just didn't really do anything with it because I just fell in love with cycling at the time.
Yeah. So genetically, is there any genetic predisposition if we were to look at your parents?
My I don't think so. My granddad is a professional soccer player.
Uh-huh.
Um, so maybe, but not really. That's a very different sport, more skillful than anything. I'm just trying to think if I actually had any athletes in the family. My sister was quite a good runner, a
Mhm.
sprinter, so she has very muscular legs and yeah, I guess a lot of it's probably genetic, maybe. I'm not sure where the upper body strength came from. I think a lot of my family members were builders, so that
Okay.
might have something to do with that.
So we
Yeah.
talk a lot about the difference between talent and skill. It seems
Yeah.
like the day at the park you realize that you have talent and it's gotten you to 20 pull-ups and you're thinking, this is not too bad. This is easy enough for me. I'm going to look at the possibility of doing something more broad.
Yeah.
What did you have to do to shift that talent or that genetic predisposition, as we're calling it, into a skill so you could then really go for the world record?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I think it just came down to there's not much research out there on pull-ups. There really isn't. There's like ways to do it more efficiently, but I kind of just experimented that within myself because there's no scientific articles on it. So I really just drew from my background as an endurance athlete from cycling and used all the training protocols that you would use in then to redirect into pull-ups. But it doesn't work very well. The cycling is obviously a continuous sport. You don't stop pedaling. The way you do it with pull-ups is that you do a set of 5, you have a break, 20 seconds later, you repeat. So I think it was just getting it right with the efficiency. And for a long time, I was training incorrectly. I was getting better, like very good, but I wasn't, I was just getting injured a lot. So yeah, there was a lot of different things I had to navigate in order to get into the right path there. And it wasn't until I reached out to someone who had the record previously. I really didn't want to do that. I wanted to do it all for myself, but I felt like it was reasonable for me to reach out to other people, considering I spent such a long amount of time doing it for myself and I wasn't really getting any answers. And this person, his name's Andrew, he enlightened me on a way of training which went completely against any idea I had before, which was just incorporating more rest days. It's crazy. We live in the athletic world we live in. Everyone's just focused on you train every day, you don't skip a day, but you really have to rest. Like it's just the most important thing. And I've taken that so seriously ever since. And I feel like my cycling didn't get very good because I wasn't taking that seriously enough. So if I was to go back, I feel like I'd be a better athlete for that. So yeah, it was just a lot of things I had to learn.
Yeah.
And it's really good to be able to learn. And this person was younger than me as well when he went for the record. So yeah, he had a lot of wisdom, this guy, this
A lot of
Andrew.
wisdom. Wow.
Yeah.
I like that. I like so much about that, Jackson, because you started off very independent. You know, I'm going to do this my way. I have everything I need. I'm not going to reach out for help. And then you've gotten to that point where you've realized that, well, someone might have something of value to me. And so what's my bigger goal right now? Is it to stay independent and do it on my own? Or is it to actually achieve the outcome of breaking the world record? And because you've reached out to someone, did you find that that was unexpected, that the person was so reciprocative and helpful?
Yeah, I think because he done it a few years ago and he probably didn't want to be pestered about it. I didn't know what to expect, but he was very willing with his time and I was very appreciative of that. And yeah, I was happy I gave it a shot. You know, I didn't want to just like not ask him and be worried. So I'm happy I asked him and in return, I learned a lot and he was very generous. And yeah, I was very happy I asked him.
Yeah, great. It just reinforces the message of if you want to go somewhere, go. If you want to go far, you go with others. And I see
Yeah,
that
exactly.
play out.
And I think people want to volunteer their information because some people don't feel like they're heard enough, and maybe he didn't. Because it's a very niche record, as popular as it has become from the people that have done it. Um, yeah, I feel like he wanted to tell people the way he trained for it because he theoretically the way he's trained for it was genius. It was nothing short of that. So yeah.
Wow. I love that. I think that's brilliant. The fact that someone who's young that necessarily wouldn't be considered as having any knowledge because he's not old enough, you know, how could he possibly be mature enough to know, has been
Yeah,
the person that you've gone to for advice, and he's given you not just what you need, but something way more than what you thought you would ever get.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, there's a big lesson in that for everybody, I think. The old
Mm,
saying that age equals wisdom. I've never been a fan of it personally because I'm of the opinion that experience can happen at any age and maturity does not align with age, as we've got multiple examples of in this culture that we're in right now. But
yeah,
the fact that you've gotten that information from a guy that's so young, you yourself were in your early 20s at the time and still are, and you've just gone and said, I need to get this done, whatever it takes, I'll go and I'll get that information. And I love the fact that he's been able to assist you with something that you've identified was genius. And it just
mm,
goes to show that the opportunities that we have to deliver something and to be something, they're not tied to how old we are. Age is
yeah,
a factor.
yeah,
So we all know David Goggins is famous for holding the 24-hour world record. We all know that he once famously attempted it and wasn't successful, and that he eventually had the record at some stage. And he's been surpassed many, many times. In 2022, when you went for the record, you've gone through a whole series of activities and strength work, and you've changed your training schedule. You told me that you had the pull-up bar on the outside of your house, and I've looked at your social media and I can see the picture there. Now, when we
yeah.
spoke and we had coffee recently, you were telling me that on the other side of that wall was a bedroom that someone was living in. How was that person affected by your constant pull-ups?
My sister absolutely hated it. She absolutely hates that thing. I think she ended up hating her room because of it as well. I mean, it's the only part in the house that I could do it. I didn't like going to the gym and doing it because the bar is very thick and you can't really. It's more efficient to do it in a skinnier bar
Mhm.
because when your hand is displaced over a bar like that, you're not going to be able to perform as well. So that was the only place I could actually reach my arms up and do it properly without banging my head on the roof. Yeah, so she just had to deal with it, I guess. Uh, I picked days where she wasn't really at home or at work, but I did drive the family insane. I was quite selfish throughout the period of time. I felt like I had to be as well. I don't really have any regrets there, but it's just what happens when you're going for something like this, and they'd need to get used to it, I think. It was only for a short period of time, 8 months. Well, for them, that would felt like eternity, especially for my sister, but it needed to be done. Yeah, I was on a strict schedule, so nothing could have stopped me, no matter how much anger my sister would have had.
I like that you've touched on that because that's crucial to understand. I think that when you're going for something, not everybody around you is going to necessarily be supportive, and the likelihood of people actually understanding the level of determination and commitment that you've got is here or there. How did
Mm.
you manage it, knowing that you had people that you were living with that were trying to understand what you were doing but really didn't?
It made me feel very alienated or misunderstood, I think. Um, but that's kind of something I was used to. I mean, cycling isn't really a sport where people in their teens pick up. They're more likely to do football, rugby league, or swimming or something. It's a bit of a weird sport, I will admit. So I was kind of used to being like misunderstood in that way.
Yeah.
Um, because it's not really a sport, it was a bit weirder. It was like I instead of like improving in my ability to recognize sports that were a bit more appreciated by Australian population, I'd like regressed into this weird, very niche calisthenic exercise. Uh, so yeah, it was kind of hard and they didn't understand why. And then I just didn't really talk about it that much because of it. I would never talk about my training unless people asked me, including my friends. I did tell them that I did the record, like I'm going for it, but I just wouldn't really talk about it more than that. And even after the record for a long period of time, I just wouldn't. It almost felt like I was ashamed of it, which is a very strange thing. But because people just didn't understand it, I didn't bother. Yeah.
So you've gone for this goal and it's quite an extreme goal. It's not the average thing that people would expect, as you've just mentioned now. People in your home, your family, who you may expect would be the most supportive, in this case, weren't able to give you what you needed purely because they didn't understand it. Anyone watching this podcast right now, if they've got a person who's in their life that's going for something that they don't understand, what advice would you give them to support that person?
Yeah, okay. I think maybe just look out for them, I think. Just support them and have a bit of faith, I think. It can be hard when especially the activity is very holds a lot of uncertainty and it's very questionable, but I think it's important for growth and this person, whatever they're doing, if they find that it's important, you should let them do it and ask them about it. Like, get to know a bit more about it so it doesn't feel so strange to you.
Mhm.
The more you understand it, the less it will feel so alien and very weird.
Yeah.
So I think just talk about it with the person and just show that you're interested as well. Which I guess my family did that to a certain extent, but I I guess it was like a two-way street. I didn't really like want to volunteer information because I knew they wouldn't understand it. So I guess it was partly my fault for not being a bit more open about it and just believing that they could understand it as well. So it is a two-way street.
Yeah,
The
that
person
sounds
doing the activity needs to believe that the other person can support them.
a great understanding to take away from this as well. So
Mm.
it's a two-way street, right? If you want people to understand what you're doing, then perhaps the onus is on you to help them understand what it is
Yeah.
they can then support you adequately.
Yeah, if you just remain in the shadow, then the whatever you're doing is always gonna seem like a strange thing. But if you're more open to talking about and volunteer the information, then yeah, the whole well, sorry, what's the word? So I just went blank. The way everyone thinks about the event or the activity is not going to look so bad. The stigma is not going to be so
Stigma.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So talk to me about November 13, 2022. I want to dive into a couple of things, but before we get to the actual day itself and what that involved, I noticed that on your post you've tagged Dementia Australia. What involvement did they have, and why did you choose that organization?
I work in aged care. At the time, I wasn't working in aged care, but before that, I had, and now I am again. Um, I feel like I think like some projected data was saying that by 2060 that it's going to rise by 400% or something ridiculous like that.
Wow.
And it's just everywhere. And I don't really, well, it's talked about, but I feel like it's not really brought much attention. And it just was something that was quite close to me. I don't have anyone in my family that has dementia, but people that I've worked with, a lot of clients, they have, or a lot of residents in aged care, they have it everywhere. And it's shocking the way the families have to deal with it. It's a very hard thing. And yeah, that was the reason I chose it. And I know a lot of family members, so a lot of friends and their family members who have had to experience living life with someone with dementia in their family, and it's hard. So I knew that I'd be able to get some type of, a lot of people would be able to draw on that and appreciate me raising money for them. Because yeah, to be honest, any other charity I was looking at didn't really tick the boxes for me, just because I didn't really have any connection or relationship with. So it just felt like the right one. And I didn't want to just pick a random one and just, yeah, not really care about it. I wanted to care about what I was doing. And the important thing for me was making sure I raised $1 for every pull up I did, which is what I was able to do. And that was, yeah, very happy to do that.
So how much money did you end up raising?
I think I ended up raising very close to 9,000. So it was beyond my target, which is good. I was a bit under. And then once I got on the radio for a short interview, I had a lot of people donating, which was very generous of them, and large amounts as well. So
Awesome.
uh yeah.
That's brilliant. That is excellent that you were able to achieve your goal. So it's the day. It's the 13th of November 2022. After 8 months of training, your sister is very happy that she's thinking after today, I'm never going to have to deal with Jaxon doing a pull up on the outside of my wall again. Hallelujah. And you're standing at the gym. You've got the banners around you. The video recording equipment is set up for your world record attempt. There are protocols that need to be met. You've ticked all the boxes, made sure everything's there. At what time of day did you start?
I think it was meant to be 10 o'clock, but I think it was like 10:15, just because I had to make sure everything was like perfect.
So you've got 24 hours in this gym doing pull-ups. And what number did you need to be?
7,715.
So 7,715 pull-ups in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So you're there, you're ready, the camera equipment's there, everything's sorted out, and you get started. What do you have around you for recovery and energy to source you for the next 24 hours?
I had bananas, pineapple. That Andrew, who I was mentioned earlier, he recommended pineapple. He sometimes went through 6-hour sessions, not drinking any water, but only eating pineapple. Just crazy. I didn't want to even try that. So I had pineapple, a lot of Gatorade or Powerade, I think it was. Bottles of water, Coca-Cola, Cliff Bars, a lot of Cliff Bars, like lollies, just for if I was feeling like I was depleted. I think in the morning I just ate something light and like low GI foods like oats. Yeah, I also had McDonald's at one point. Yeah, probably not the smartest move, but I felt like I deserved it. Yeah, I felt like I didn't do that much research on the fueling part of things like I should have, but it did help me. As long as you're constantly eating and drinking, yeah, I'm used to this type of stuff of doing long bike rides, so I know how the fueling works. Not by the calorie or looking at anything specifically. I don't like to go into numbers like that just because it makes eating very enjoyable,
Yeah.
and I can keep my weight where I want it to be quite easily. So yeah, just eating not trying anything new, just eating what I'm usually eating, but obviously a bit more because it's a long event. I think I was sweating so much in the first 12 hours, I'd lost like 4 kilos of just water weight, which is ridiculous. You didn't need to go to the toilet the whole time just because of that. And I was drinking and drinking and drinking. Yeah. So a few things I would do differently if I did it again, just based
Yeah.
on that experience, like being a bit more cool, having more fans on you. I only had one like piddly little fan and didn't do much, but I still got what I needed to. So I was happy in the end.
And prior to that day, how long had you consecutively gone for in your training to be able to prep? So how many hours had you done pull-ups for in one go prior to that day?
I think about 3 months prior, I'd done a 12-hour day. Yeah, but that wasn't a very good use of my time. It was very poor effort. I kind of hit the numbers, but I was like just there with the record and doing it for another 12 hours after that. I wouldn't have been able to do it. And then my biggest session was a 6 hour session, but that was 10 pull-ups every minute without stopping. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, 10 so 5 pull-ups every 30 seconds. And that was complete torture. And that's all you need to do. People who say they need to do 12 hours are insane. You don't need to do it. You just need to train at a high volume, high rate, and keep that for a decent amount of time. 6 hours, you don't need to go any more of that. Once you can do that, you're ready for the record.
Wow, there you go. That's not expected. I thought for sure you would have had to have at least done a 12-hour day a couple of times leading up to it.
Yeah, I just don't think it's necessary. When I trained another person to beat the record, I didn't get him to do any 12-hour sessions. The biggest session he did was 6 hours, and he beat the record no problem at all.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go. So maybe beating the record is not as hard as we all thought.
I wouldn't I wouldn't say that.
He's like, oh, come on, that's a bit rough.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you have no idea. Ask my
yeah.
sister. All right.
Yeah.
So you're on the day, the record's here. You've got it in your sights. Everything's all set up. At what stage during that 24 hours did you hit your first, holy cow, this is hard?
Um, Probably maybe 6 hours in when I was overheating. They couldn't I couldn't get anything to cool me down. I was like overheating. I had to jump in the shower and basically take off everything. You just sit there for 5 minutes. The people that were meant to be witnessing me just jotting my reps down. I didn't really have any like assistants or anyone like feeding me or anything. So they just put like Coke bottles on my neck and my underarms and toes and the extremities because that's the part that reacts to a change in temperature most quickly. And that's what they were doing for me. It just wasn't working. And they were freezing cold, these things. Yeah, I just wasn't feeling good. I was still well clear of the record at that point, but I was only early in. And I remember one of the witnesses, he told me afterwards they didn't think I'd be able to do it after he saw that. Um, so I just needed a quick break to cool down, and I changed my strategy a bit with I just had Coke cans on my toes the whole time, pretty much. I just rested on them between each set. So that was the first part where I was like very unsure. I will mention as well that during my whole training, I had a bad wrist injury. So I was using hooks. They kind of grip to your arm like that, and they come over like that. So your hands aren't actually gripping the bar, the hooks are. You're just kind of limp. Because I couldn't use them properly. And then the record day was the first day I didn't use that in 8 months. So I was not sure if the injury was still there or not. I basically had no grip strength because of it. So I was very worried about that, and my hands were getting cut quite quickly.
Yeah.
because I didn't really have much of a taping strategy. So I took stupid risks. But yeah, that was the other thing I was worried about. But that didn't seem to be an issue. But it was in the back of my head for a long time. I think it wasn't until I passed the 12-hour record that I felt a lot more confident in myself.
So that's a really great point that you've mentioned there. One of the things that I like to talk about is how we stack the evidence. And by stacking the evidence, it shifts your belief in your ability to achieve the goal. It's a very common foundation for elite athletes, also just for generic people that are looking to have significant goals in business and the like. Stacking the evidence actually has a huge impact on how you view the outcome and your ability to achieve it. If you stacked that amount of evidence at hour 11, did you stack any more? Because I'm thinking that as the hours went on, it felt like it got harder and you would have needed to more and more rely on your own self-belief.
Yeah, I think what it was once I'd like overheated, I pretty much just went down to a lower rate because that was my strategy. I was meant to hold 10 a minute for 6 hours and then drop down to 8.
Mhm.
And because I'd only ever trained at 10 a minute, anything under that just felt super easy. Regardless of whether I was at 6,000 pull-ups, I was hurting, but I was just in the zone and if it was a good rhythm. And then by the time I hit 12 hours, I'd passed the 12-hour record. I'd beaten it. And that was just all the confidence I needed to keep going. And yeah, it was just a matter of time before I broke the one I was actually going for. So yeah, you did need those little milestones to tick off. Yeah, that's
So that's another great note, is to remind yourself of what you achieve along the way. It's not necessarily just about the big end goal, but in order to achieve that, there are little wins that you will accumulate along the way that will help you to get there.
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. So how many pull-ups did you end up doing?
I did 8,008 in around I did it in about 20 and a half hours. So
So
I
this
had
is
it.
something that's interesting that you told me when we met, that you didn't use the full 24 hours.
No, I didn't. I didn't. Um, I felt like I'd beaten the mark I was meant to, and it seemed stupid just doing like 1 or 2 reps over. What's the point? So I kept going because I had so much time left. I think I had 6 hours by the time I surpassed the previous record, and I just kept going for the next few hours until I hit 8,000, and then I was getting tired. I was like sleepy. I was in a lot of pain, and I just didn't really feel like a need to keep going. Um, 8,000 was a number that no one had hit before. It was like the next milestone. Yeah, in hindsight, I should have set my mark over the number because I felt like I could have used that time a bit better towards the end. But I was only really concerned about getting the record. There was so much uncertainty in the whole thing. I'd never done it before, but now I'd done it, I'd have so much confidence if I ever went for it again.
So you achieved the record. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How long did you hold on to it for?
I think I'd found out that it was official. I'd submitted all the evidence in November, and it took them a while to get back to me. And I think it was beaten in October. So around 8 months I'd had it for. And it was long enough for me to get into the book. So once I'd published the new book, I was in there. I was only in a very small section. Barely in it, I would even say it, but it's good enough for me.
And so this is something that not everybody knows. I know that I definitely didn't until we spoke, that when the Guinness World Records book is published annually, it's only the person that holds the record at the time of publishing that gets published.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I don't know when they put all the information in. I got no idea how the system works, but it needs to I think they release it in September each year.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure, but I think it's the person who had it at the time. So anywhere between February and September is, I guess, when they're writing it. Yeah.
And what did you get for the record? You must have something at home which clarifies that you were a world record holder beside a couple of lines in a book.
I have a certificate. They give you that one for free, which is surprising. And they also you can also buy like a picture frame, but they didn't have any when I was on the store at the time. So I just bought one from Office Works, and it's still there. And it's nice. It looks nice on the wall, and it's a very unique thing to have, I think. If you go into my room and see it, it's just, yeah, I always look at it and I'm very proud of it when I look at it. Despite the fact that the record's been broken now, I still look at it with good memories.
And when you broke the record, what was next? What did your family do?
My family, what did they do? I think I got a lot of support from them and they were very proud of me. I think I wasn't on my phone at the time I was doing the record, but it was being live streamed from the gym. And a lot of my dad got a lot of his friends to watch me, and I felt a lot of love and support through a lot of people, and I had a lot of people reaching out to me, a lot of family members. Actually, my sister bought me a bunch of goodies, like chocolates and stuff, and was like, "Good job." So I get,
Good job in
yeah. So
brackets, I forgive you.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think we were just both happy enough that it was over,
Yeah.
and she was happy to see me succeed. Yeah. A lot of my family wasn't there actually. They were overseas. So it was just my mum that was there at the time. Yeah.
Wow. So you did it
Yeah.
largely on your own.
Yeah, I had like my auntie was there and supporting things and my uncle. Yeah, but not anyone like within the house that I live in.
Yeah.
They were all away.
Do you think it might have been different if you had, for instance, a load of supporters or followers that were behind you and that you could visibly see and feel on the day?
Uh, Honestly, I don't think so. I thought about that because I felt like I was in a zoo when people were watching me. I had a lot of friends who'd come in throughout the day and a few times during the day as well. And I just felt very strange. Like I didn't, I felt like I wanted to talk to my friends because they were there. I just
Mm.
felt not good about not talking to them, but we both understood that I was there to do something. Um, yeah, I didn't really like it actually. And Andrew, who gave me the training information, was like, "Don't get distracted by your friends. It's like a number one priority. Just do your thing. They're gonna come and go, so just focus." And it was a hard thing to do because I felt rude not talking to them. Uh, but I think maybe subconsciously it does improve your performance because this whole time I was training by myself. I did maybe one session in the gym, and it does improve your performance, but it just feel a bit weird at the same time. People watching you, you're basically in the center of the gym. You're unavoidable, and yeah, in, strange feeling.
Strange feeling. Yeah,
Mm.
I can imagine. So what's next?
Uh,
You're well past that now. We're a few years down the track. I'm guessing that a person that's had that aspiration and has felt the world record high probably doesn't then just shelve that for the rest of their lives. Is there anything else that you're cooking behind the scenes?
yeah, there is. It took me a while to find. Actually, no, there were two things I had in mind. So lately, I've been doing breakdancing,
Mhm.
something I've always wanted to do. And there was a particular power move that I wanted to learn called a flare. And it's basically your legs like go around your body like this and come around. You're kind of just
Yeah.
like, yeah, you've probably seen it before
You've probably
from the
got the
night.
upper body strength for that too.
Oh, it took me a long time to get it. Um, yeah, it took me a while to find motivation because I was just so exhausted. Had so much fatigue from the event. Even months later, I wasn't sleeping properly. So it took me a while to get back on the rhythm of things. And then I learning this dance move was something I'd wanted to do for years. And then now I'd learned that and I can do it quite well. And but the big one that I've had wanted to do ever since I was young was climb Mount Everest without oxygen. So that's it. That's the next plan in 2027, hopefully.
So we're not far away at all.
We're not far away. There's a lot of preparation to be done, and I'm no mountaineering expert. I'm reading as much as I can on it and just trying to understand the sport. It's a very expensive sport as well, so it's not something you can dive into unless you're like a billionaire. But um, yeah, it will take time, and that's the only way. You have to be patient with things like this and understand how your body reacts to altitude. Living
Mm.
at sea level, I know nothing about that. The highest I've ever been is like 2,500 meters, and that was pretty high for me. So just one step at a time.
Yeah. Well, you never know. You might have someone who watches this podcast and says, I might give Jaxon a call and see if he wants some help with some sponsoring or some training for that event. So if that were the case, if anyone wanted to reach you or support you, follow you, how would they go about doing that?
I'm probably most active on Instagram, so just my first name, Jaxon_Italiano.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'll more than likely respond to you if it's about mountaineering.
Now I can vouch for that because I reached out to your account and I did notice that both of your socials, you're not the type of guy that spends a lot of time on social media, but you are definitely the guy that responds when someone sends a request.
Yeah, yeah, I don't really like posting that much. It's just not in my character. But everyone that's messaged me about pull-ups, I've always responded to,
Yeah.
just because it's something that, yeah, once you're on one side of it and you understand what it's like, you want to help as much people as possible.
So that seems like a great place to end up this conversation that we're having. In lieu of the fact that you have achieved this astounding world record, on top of that, you are now setting your sights for something equally, if not more significant. There must be some advice that you'd like to give to people if they were looking to achieve something great. So what would be your top tips to anyone who's watched this and who's looking at you and says, well, that's all right, he's younger than me, or I couldn't do that because, what would you want them to take away from this to remind them what they're capable of?
Yeah, there's so many. I think one that kind of I've been thinking about more recently, it's maybe not as strong as some other ones, but um, I feel like a lot of people are very worried about living to an old age and not having done everything that they wanted to.
Mm.
And it's like a big thing. Um, and I feel like the quality of everyone's life really depends on that. And it's hard to know whether things are an impulsive thought and whether or not you should go for them. But I feel like if something has been resting on your mind for a couple of years and it's something that you've always wanted to do, I would strongly recommend you doing that. And because you've always had that there in your head, you need to trust that and know that no matter what you do, that you'll be able to get there. If you have that foundation, then nothing's going to stop you. That's something that I've learned through myself. Just having something there in my head for a few years, I know that I'm serious about it.
That
You
sounds
should
like
just go
purpose
for
to
it.
me.
Mm,
Could easily be described as purpose.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much again, Jaxon. With permission, I will avidly watch your progress with regards to your attempt for Everest in 2027 to climb with no oxygen. That's going to be an absolutely huge ask based on what I know of such things, which I will admit is not so much. But I look forward to being able to support you and just be one of those voices behind you to remind you that you're absolutely capable of doing whatever you set your mind to. And thank you again for taking the time to share your story with us 3 years down the track. And I look forward to sharing your next one.
Yeah, thanks very much, Joe. Great being on the show.
Thanks.